Prost, Chin Chin, Sloche, Skol, Salud, Zaraf, Kampai, Kari, Gambay, Zadzarovia, Watersalong. Cheers! Everyone around the world loves to celebrate. We raise a glass to the moments, big and small, that lead us to where we are. All the moments, everything that came before, from those glasses comes joy, sorrow, those drunken nights we'd love to remember, and the ones we can't forget. Even that had to start somewhere. From one became many, and eventually containers were being stored and shipped around the ancient world. Depending on their place of origin and what was inside, even just different types of alcohol, the large ceramic or clay pots had different shapes and different artistic motifs. But hopefully the stories can be the same going forward. Pour into a small cup, chalice, mug, glass, and raise it to another year, another day, another moment. My name is Renee Whitehouse. You're listening to Detours in Archaeology. This 21st episode idea was from a coworker I had named Aaron. Let's raise a glass to Amphorae Not So Anonymous. The adaptation of Amphorae for the storage and transport of various alcoholic beverages, including wine, beer, other fermented drinks, and foods, is an enduring aspect of ancient culture. Amphorae, typically made of clay, were designed with specific shapes and sizes that cater to the unique requirements of different types of alcohol, and to protect the wine or other beverages from external impurities, and to provide an ideal environment for fermentation. But what they all have in common are the fact that they have handles over or by the arch over the neck of the vessel, so it is called a neck-handled vase. Amphorae have a vessel shape that varies greatly, but usually has a narrow neck for pouring and is wider at the top of the belly and narrows to a small foot or pointed base. The evolution of these vessels reflects not only the technological advancements of the time, but also the cultural and social significance of the beverages they contained by the art of the pottery in the cultures that often depicted scenes of wine production and consumption. Wine, as a staple of social and religious practices in multiple cultures, was the common design for Amphorae, which featured the narrow neck and wide body to facilitate the fermentation process and allowed for the preservation of the wine's quality over time. For instance, the amphorae used for the Tibrio Toscano wine production were specifically selected to enhance the sensory profiles of the wine, showcasing the importance of the vessel choice in winemaking. The use of indigenous yeast strains during the fermentation in these amphorae further contributed to the unique characteristics of the wine, emphasizing the interplay between the vessel design and the fermentation dynamics. By examining the scope of key regions, for instance, ancient Greece, Rome, Egypt, the Near East, and China, and their contributions to the art of amphorae production, we will see how the design and the use of amphorae evolved over time and what they could reveal about trade, daily life, and artistic practices. The chemical composition of the contents stored in amphorae has been the subject of extensive research. Studies utilizing chromatography and mass spectrometry have revealed residues of various alcoholic beverages within ancient amphorae, providing insights into the types of drinks that were prevalent in different regions and different periods. The analysis of amphorae from the Carthaginian fleet has shown that they were used to transport not only wine, but also olive oil and other liquid goods, indicating a multifunctional use of these vessels. This adaptability reflects the economic and cultural exchanges that occurred in the ancient Mediterranean, where trade routes facilitated the distributions of diverse alcoholic beverages. The fermentation processes employed in amphorae also varied based on the type of beverage being produced. For wine, the fermentation process often involves the use of specific yeast strains, such as Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which are known for their efficiency in converting sugars into alcohol. For any brewer knows, the choice of yeast can significantly impact the flavor and aroma of the wine, beer, anything, with certain strains producing higher levels of desirable esters and different chemical compounds. In contrast, the fermentation of beer may involve a broader range of yeast species, including non-Saccharomyces yeasts, which can contribute to the complexity of the beer's flavor profile. The role of amphora in the production of fermented beverages also extends to the preservation of these drinks. The porous nature of clay amphora allows for a degree of oxygen exchange, which can be beneficial for the aging of wine, but may pose challenges for beer storage, where oxidation can lead to off flavors. The brewing process for beer, which typically involves the fermentation of grains, requires different contributions compared to winemaking. For instance, the fermentation of beer often necessitates a more controlled environment. The amphora used for beer might have been designed with wider openings to facilitate the addition of ingredients such as hops and malt, crucial components for the flavor development in beer. Thus, the design and material of amphora were critical in determining the suitability of these vessels for different types of alcohol, influencing not only the fermentation process, but also the storage and aging of the final products. The archaeological evidence suggests that amphora were not only used for wine and beer, but also for a variety of other fermented beverages and foods. For example, in ancient China, archaeological findings indicate that fermented beverages made of rice, honey, and fruits were produced as early as 7000 BCE. These beverages were most likely stored in pottery jars that served a similar function and appearance to amphora, highlighting the universal need for suitable containers for fermentation across different cultures, kind of like a kimchi pot. The adaptation of amphora for these diverse foods and beverages underscores the significance of fermentation technology in ancient societies, as it played a critical role in food production and social rituals. As mentioned, the shape and size of amphora varied significantly across different regions in the ancient world, reflecting local practices in the production, storage, and transportation of alcoholic beverages. Factors influencing the shape of alcoholic containers are type of alcohol. Different alcoholic beverages require specific types of containers based on their production and consumption needs. 2. Material used. The availability of materials influenced the design of alcohol containers. In ancient cultures, pottery was a common material for creating vessels due to its abundance and ease of shaping. The shapes of pottery vessels varied widely, from the round-bodied jars used in Mesopotamia to the slender, tall forms of Chinese wine jars. In the regions where wood was plentiful, such as Scandinavia, wooden barrels were crafted for beer and mead, with their cylindrical shape facilitating storage and transport, so they didn't need to craft amphora. 3. Cultural practices. The cultural significance of alcohol consumption also played a role in the design of the containers. In indigenous cultures, the act of sharing alcohol during ceremonies and social gatherings was of paramount importance. As a result, containers were often designed to be communal, with larger vessels that could hold significant quantities of alcohol for sharing, emphasizing the importance of togetherness in its consumption. And 4. Artistic expression. The decoration and design of alcohol containers served as a form of artistic expression, reflecting the cultural identity and beliefs of the society. For example, ancient Greek pottery frequently depicted scenes of wine consumption, banquets, and mythological narratives, showcasing the cultural significance of wine in that society. Similarly, in ancient China, wine vessels were intricately designed and adorned with motifs that conveyed auspicious meanings, reinforcing the connection between alcohol and their cultural values. The design of amphora evolved to meet the specific needs of different wine types and the production methods. For instance, the amphora from the region of Chios were characterized by a tall, slender neck and a round body. This design was particularly suited for the storage of high-quality wines, as it minimized exposure to air and helped maintain the wine's flavor during transport. In contrast, amphora from the Iberian Peninsula, such as the Dresel 20 type, were broader and had a more robust shape, indicating their bulk transportation of wine, often for trade purposes. The differences in shape and size between these amphora suggest that regional preferences for wine characteristics also influence their design. The variations in amphora design also reflect the types of alcoholic beverages produced in different areas. For example, in regions where beer was the primary alcoholic beverage, such as in parts of Northern Europe, the amphora tended to be shorter and wider, allowing for easier access to the contents and facilitating that fermentation process. The broader base of these amphora provided stability during fermentation, which is crucial for brewing processes that involve vigorous bubbling and sedimentation. This design choice indicates a practical application to the specific requirements of beer production, contrasting sharply with the more delicate designs used for wine. Furthermore, the inscriptions found on amphora provide additional context regarding their contents and origins. Amphora-bearing inscriptions from the Roman Empire frequently indicated the type of wine or the vineyard from which it originated, suggesting a system of branding and quality control that was important for customers and extremely useful for the future archaeologists. This practice not only facilitated trade, but also reflected the cultural significance of wine in Roman society, where specific regions were known for producing distinct varieties. The presence of such inscriptions highlights the importance of amphora as not just storage vessels, but also as markers of identity and quality in the alcohol trade. In regions such as ancient Egypt, amphora were used for a variety of fermented beverages, including beer and wine. The design of these vessels often featured wider mouths and shorter necks, which facilitated the addition of ingredients during the brewing process. The archaeological evidence suggests that beer was a staple in the diet of ancient Egyptians, and the amphora used for its storage were adapted to meet the practical needs of production and consumption. The varieties in amphora design across different regions thus reflect not only the types of alcohol being stored, but also the cultural practices surrounding them. The size of amphora could indicate the scale of production and distribution within a region. Larger amphora were often used for commercial purposes, allowing for the bulk transport of wine or other alcoholic beverages over long distances. This is particularly evident in the trade networks established during the Roman Empire, where the amphora were standardized to facilitate efficient transport and storage. The widespread use of large amphora for trade suggests that certain regions became known for their production capabilities, influencing economic relationships and cultural exchanges between societies. The shape and size of the amphora also provides insights onto the technological advances of ancient cultures. The ability to produce amphora with specific designs indicates a level of craftsmanship and understanding of materials that evolved over time. For example, the transition from simple utilitarian designs to more elaborate forms reflects advancements in pottery techniques, such as wheel throwing and firing methods, and a growing appreciation for the aesthetics of everyday objects. This evolution in amphora design parallels broader cultural shifts, where the consumption of alcohol became intertwined with social rituals and statuses. Alcohol, especially wine, often had symbolic connections to deities and divine rituals. The role of amphora in social and ritual contexts, particularly in feasts, or the use of wine in sacrifices, ceremonies, and public events, represents deep cultural values about community, hospitality, and the connection between the divine and human realms. In many cultures, wine and its storage containers were symbolic of wealth, divine favor, and social status, making amphora mean more than being simple practical objects, but symbols of cultural identity and the power that comes with it. The artistic depictions on amphora from various cultures around the world reflect not only the aesthetic values of the societies that produced them, but also their cultural narratives, religious beliefs, and social practices. These vessels often featured intricate designs that conveyed specific and significant meanings, highlighting their historical and cultural contexts. In ancient Greece, amphora were often adorned using the black figure and red figure techniques that allowed artists to create the detailed scenes, often depicting mythological narratives, athletic competitions, and daily life. For example, the works of Cleophadrus Painter, who was active in the early 5th century BCE, are known for their intricate depictions of mythological scenes, such as the return of Hephaestus to Olympus. These images serve not only decorative purposes, but also functional as storytelling devices that convey cultural values and heroic ideals. The imagery on Greek amphora often also celebrated athletic prowess, as seen on the depictions of the Panathenaic Games, where visitors were awarded amphora filled with olive oil, symbolizing both victory and divine favor. These amphora, awarded to the victors of the games, typically featured images of the athletic contest on one side and the depiction of the goddess Athena on the other. These vessels not only celebrated athletic achievement, but also reinforced the cultural importance of competition and divine favor in Greek society. Vases and amphora frequently depicted scenes of wine drinking, banquets, and Dionysian festivals, also illustrating the cultural importance of wine in the social life and religious rituals. Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, festivity, and revelry, signifies the cultural significance of wine in Greek society. He is often depicted in art alongside various vessels used for drinking, such as craters and calyxes, which were integral to symposia, or drinking parties, that served as social and philosophical gatherings. The rituals associated with Dionysian worship often included the use of these vessels to facilitate communal drinking, thus reinforcing some social bonds and cultural identity. But, as Dionysus was often depicted as a liberator, he also represents the transformative power of wine, which is often depicted as a means to transcend ordinary experiences and connect with the divine. The use of masks in ritual and performances, particularly those associated with Dionysian festivals, highlights the transformative power of wine in allowing individuals to step outside their normal identities and embrace a more primal, ecstatic state of being. This theme of transformation is central to the worship of Dionysus, as participants in his rituals sought to experience a sense of liberation from societal constraints. The festivals dedicated to Dionysus, particularly the Dionysia and the Bacchanalia for Bacchus, the Roman counterpart, were characterized by dramatic performances, music, ecstatic dancing, and excessive communal drinking. These celebrations were not only a form of entertainment, but also a means to honor the god, reinforcing the belief that wine was a divine gift that facilitated communion with the gods. For the lower and lowest classes, these wild celebrations blurred the lines between social order and chaos. This led the Bacchanalia to be initially restricted due to their association with debauchery and potential social unrest, highlighting the tension between the joys of intoxication and the risks that it posed to societal norms. This duality is central to the god, who embodied both the joyous and destructive aspects of wine consumption. The reverence for wine as a staple of the Mediterranean diet is reflected in the writings of ancient and modern authors, who extolled its virtues not only as a beverage but also as a cultural marker of civilization. A subject of exploration in various philosophical discourses, this interplay between order and chaos, reason and ecstasy, reflects the broader cultural attitudes towards alcohol and its effects on human behavior. The acceptance of wine as a means of achieving a higher state of consciousness is evident in the writings of philosophers who recognize its potential for both enlightenment and excess. The philosophical implications of Dionysus' character also resonate through the works of thinkers like Nietzsche, who viewed the god as a representation of the primal instincts and the chaotic forces of nature that challenge rationality. This perspective underscores the importance of Dionysus in understanding the human condition, where the consumption of alcohol serves as a metaphor for the struggle between reason and instinct. The god was the embodiment of the complexities of intoxication, ecstasy, and the dual nature of pleasure and chaos that alcohol can invoke. Moreover, it is portrayed as a source of chaos and destruction when misused in the cultural narratives surrounding Dionysus/Bacchus. The myth of Pentheus, who was torn apart by his own mother and a group of frenzied women under the influence of Dionysus, serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of denying the god's power and the potential consequences of excessive indulgence. This duality reflects the ancient understanding of alcohol as a substance that can elevate human experience but also lead to moral and social disarray. The association with Dionysus and fertility in the natural cycle of life further enhances his importance in agricultural societies. As the god of the grape harvest, he symbolizes the bounty of nature and the joy of communal feasting. The rituals surrounding his worship often included the offering of wine to the gods, reflecting a deep respect for the agricultural processes that sustain life. This reverence is echoed in the Roman traditions, where Bacchus was celebrated not only for his connection to wine, but also for his role in promoting fertility and abundance in both the fields and in human relationships. The artistic representations of Dionysus and Bacchus further illustrate their cultural significance. In ancient art, these deities are often depicted with grapevines, ivy, and other symbols of fertility, emphasizing their connection to wine and nature. Roman amphora often reflected the influence of Greek styles, while they also incorporated elements unique to the Roman culture, reflecting their values and practices. They frequently featured decorative motifs such as floral patterns, geometric designs, and the scenes of everyday life, including banquets and harvests. The use of inscriptions on amphora, indicating the contents and origin, became more common during the Roman period, serving both practical and decorative functions. This blending of utility and artistry illustrates the Roman emphasis on both commerce and culture, as amphorae became symbols of wealth and social status. Furthermore, the integration of Dionysian motifs into the Roman culture illustrates the adaptability of these myths across different societies. As the Roman Empire expanded, the worship of Bacchus, or Dionysus, became intertwined with local traditions and beliefs, leading to a rich tapestry of rituals and celebrations that honored the god of wine. In the context of ancient Egypt, vessels used for beer production have been identified, although the archaeological evidence is less abundant compared to that of wine. The significance of these vessels extends beyond mere functionality. They were often elaborately decorated and used in ritualistic context. For instance, beer was associated with the goddess Hathor, who was revered as a deity of fertility and joy, indicating the intertwining of daily life and spirituality in ancient Egyptian culture. The artistic depictions of these vessels in tomb paintings and reliefs further illustrate their importance in funerary practices, where they were often included as offerings to ensure sustenance in the afterlife. The artistic depictions of these vessels in tomb paintings and reliefs further illustrate their importance in funerary practices, where they were frequently found in tombs, included as offerings to ensure sustenance in the afterlife, serving both practical and symbolic purposes. For instance, the analysis of a Shede amphora from Tutankhamun's burial chamber confirmed its use for storing high-quality red grape wine, which was integral to funerary offerings and rituals. This practice underscores the Egyptians' belief in the necessity of providing for the deceased in the afterlife, as wine was often associated with offerings to the gods and the sustenance of the dead, reflecting the material culture of the time and also the socio-religious beliefs surrounding death and the afterlife. In ancient Egyptian art, scenes of beer production and consumption are common, often showing offerings to deities. The intricate designs on beer jars reflect the importance of these practices in maintaining familial and social harmony. Moreover, the depiction of amphora in Egyptian art further illustrates their significance. Artistic representations of wine production and consumption, including the use of amphora, are prevalent in tomb paintings, which, just like the Greeks, often depict scenes of banquets and offerings. These images serve to reinforce the cultural importance of wine and its association with fertility, celebration, and the divine. The iconography surrounding wine and amphora in funerary art highlights the Egyptians' understanding of the afterlife as a continuation of earthly life, where such provisions were deemed essential for the deceased's journey. Additionally, the integration of amphora into burial practices reflects broader cultural interactions with the ancient Mediterranean world. As the Egyptians engaged with neighboring cultures, they adopted various artistic and ritualistic elements, which can be seen in the evolution of their funerary practices. The cross-cultural exchanges during the Ptolemaic period introduced new motifs and practices that enriched Egyptian burial customs, including the use of amphora. In ancient Egypt, beer and wine were staples of the diet, and their consumption was linked to various deities. Osiris, the god of agriculture and the afterlife, was associated with the cultivation of barley for beer, their first main staple. The Egyptians believed that beer was a gift from the gods, and it played a significant role in both daily and religious practices. Rituals involving beer were common during festivals where such offerings were made to the gods. Etruscan amphora displayed unique artistic styles that incorporated local motifs and themes. The Etruscans were known for their elaborate funerary practices, and amphora used in burial customs frequently featured the recurring depictions of banquets, music, and dance, symbolizing the importance of these activities in Etruscan society. The Etruscans had a Pontic black figure neck amphora. Another example of the amphora in the Orovito depicted a satyr having a grand old time. Another black figure terracotta depicted the ambush of the Trojan Torlos by the Greek hero Achilles. And a small terracotta Etruscan-style amphora had a bronze trifold sphinx stand. Just like the Greeks, they often had depictions of gods and heroes, such as Athena, Heracles, Aeneas, and Turin, the last of which is an Etruscan goddess of love, fertility, and vitality. Similar to Greeks and Romans, Etruscan artists also decorated their pottery with geometric designs and stylized images of humans and animals. Spirals were a common motif in Etruscan art, and scholars speculate that they may have symbolized astronomical phenomena or made some religious reference. The Phoenician and Punic amphora, particularly those found in the coastal regions of the Mediterranean, often featured stylized decorations and inscriptions that indicated their contents, typically bulk goods like wine, olive oil, and grain. The designs on the amphora sometimes included motifs of animals or gods in a similar vein to the cultures that we've already discussed, but this time reflecting on the religious beliefs and practices of the Phoenician culture. The artistic choices made by Phoenician artists reveal the cultural significance of maritime trade and the role of amphora as vessels of economic exchange. In the Near East, so Mesopotamia and Persia, ancient Sumerians are credited with the earliest known production of beer, which they refer to as kas. In ancient Mesopotamia, beer was associated with the goddess Ninkasi, and the vessels used for brewing were often decorated with motifs that celebrated her role in the production of this essential beverage. The myth of Ninkasi is central to their culture. The Hymn to Ninkasi is a Sumerian poem that praises her and also serves as a recipe for and outlines the brewing process, emphasizing the importance in daily life and rituals. Beer was consumed during religious ceremonies and social gatherings, reinforcing its role as a sacred beverage. In the Achaemenid Empire, amphora and similar vessels were often decorated with animal motifs such as griffins, which held significant symbolic meaning in Persian mythology. These designs were not only decorative, but also served to convey messages of power and protection, as griffins were associated with guardianship. The artistic choices made by the Achaemenid artisans revealed the cultural importance of mythology and symbolism in their society, demonstrating how art was used to reinforce social hierarchies and cultural narratives. We've already seen how the history of amphora extends beyond the Mediterranean, influencing various regions through trade and cultural exchange. While amphora are most commonly associated with Mediterranean civilizations, evidence suggests their use and adaptation in regions such as the Arabian Peninsula, the Black Sea, and parts of Northern Europe. This broader perspective reveals how amphora facilitated the exchange of alcoholic beverages and other goods across diverse cultures. In the Arabian Peninsula, amphora were utilized for wine storage and transport, just like in the Mediterranean, as evidenced by the discovery of inscribed wine amphora in Taj, Saudi Arabia, dating from the 3rd to 1st century BCE. These amphora, alongside imported East Mediterranean types, indicate that wine was a significant commodity in the region. The presence of amphora in this context highlights the influence of Mediterranean trade networks on Arabian societies, where local adaptations of amphora designs may have occurred to suit regional needs. Archaeological findings in the Black Sea region also provide insights into the spread of amphora. Amphora found there indicate that they were used to transport not only wine but also fish and other goods. The study of amphora from shipwrecks in the Black Sea reveals a complex trade network that connected to various cultures, facilitating the exchange of commodities across vast distances. The adaptation of amphora in this region reflects local production practices and the types of goods that were in demand, showcasing the versatility of these vessels in different cultural contexts. Amphora were also discovered at sites such as Tintagel and Bantham in Northern Europe, particularly in early medieval Britain. Although the quantity of imported Mediterranean pottery was relatively small, the presence of amphora indicates a connection to the Mediterranean trade networks, most likely from Rome, and the influence of imported goods on local economies. The amphora found in these contexts were associated with the establishment of power structures and social hierarchies, suggesting that it was the exchange of alcoholic beverages that played a role in the formation of elite identities and those cultural practices. In China, particularly during the Ming and Qing dynasties, porcelain vessels were decorated with intricate design that often included religious iconography and natural motifs. While not technically amphora in the classical sense, these vessels do look similar, with handles on either side, a thin neck, and a wide body, and they served similar purposes for storage and transport. Also, later, the integration of Christian iconography into Chinese porcelain illustrates the cultural exchange that occurred through trade and missionary activities, showcasing how local artisans adapted foreign influences into their artistic practices. This hybridization of styles reflects the dynamic interactions between cultures and the role of art in understanding and communication. Pottery jars were found in the Neolithic village Jiahu in the Henan province, located in the central plain of ancient China near the Yellow River. These jars contain chemical evidence of a fermented beverage made from rice, honey, and fruit that dates back 9,000 years. And this is around the same time that barley beer and grape wine were being made in the Middle East. Ancient Chinese pottery often features motifs related to wine consumption, including depictions of rituals involving wine offerings to ancestors. The intricate designs on wine vessels reflected the importance of these practices in maintaining familial and social harmony. In ancient Chinese mythology, Zhonghui is often associated with the protection against evil spirits and the celebration of harvests as a Taoist deity, traditionally regarded as a vanquisher of ghosts and evil beings. Wine was considered a divine gift, and its consumption was integral to rituals honoring the ancestors and deities. The act of offering wine during ceremonies was believed to facilitate communication with the spirit realm. The Huang Nanjing, an ancient medical text, discusses the use of alcohol in traditional Chinese medicine, emphasizing its role in promoting health and well-being. The god of wine and alcohol in Chinese mythology, in Taoism specifically, is Yi Di. They were the brewer credited with the invention of winemaking during the reign of Yu the Great. Now I say they because there are a lot of contradicting sources that said it was a he and others that say it was a she, although the she may have been Yu's daughter who Yi Di was said to make the wine for. In the official Taoist pantheon, he is an impassive sage deity, but he is popularly viewed as a celestial sovereign who guides human affairs and rules the enormous heavenly bureaucracy. The worship of Yi Di was officially sanctioned by the Taoist emperors of the Song dynasty, who renamed him Yu Hong Sheng Di, Jade August Supreme Lord, and accorded him the status equivalent to that of the Confucian supreme power. Now, the amphora from China often have dragon-molded handles and have a glaze, indicating that they had reached different technological achievements within the centuries CE. Completely disconnected from all of these was South America. The existence of amphora in North and South America is a subject of interest, particularly in the contents of ancient pottery and its functions. While amphora as a specific form of storage vessel are most commonly associated with Mediterranean cultures, there is evidence of similar ceramic vessels in the Americas that served comparable purposes, albeit with distinct cultural adaptations. The Tiwanaku culture in present-day Bolivia produced ceramic vessels that, while also not amphora in their traditional sense, shared similar functions. Tiwanaku snuff trays featured intricate iconography that reflected the spiritual and medicinal practices of the culture. They also created large ceramic vessels that were used for storing and transporting liquids, including chicha, a traditional fermented beverage made from maize. These vessels often featured elaborate designs and iconography that reflected the cultural and religious beliefs of the societies that produced them. The designs often included geometric patterns and representations of deities, illustrating the importance of ritual and the connection between the physical and spiritual realms. This artistic expression highlights how different cultures adapted the same concept of large storage vessels to their unique contexts, emphasizing their role in art and cultural identity. In the Andean region, the Wari civilization's brewing traditions reflect similar themes of social cohesion and political relationships. The production of chicha was often linked to feasting events that served to strengthen alliances and communal ties. The vessels used for brewing and serving chicha were crafted with specific materials that facilitated fermentation, demonstrating the technological advances of the time. The archaeological study of these vessels provides insights into the socio-political dynamics of the Wari state and its emphasis on communal rituals surrounding alcohol consumption. The archaeological evidence here indicates that these vessels were integral to social gatherings and feasting events, serving as a means of fostering community ties and political relationships. reflects the technological advances of the time and highlights the cultural significance of alcohol in the social rituals. As an art object, there are technological aspects of the innovation of glazing, painting, and sculptural details that elevated amphora beyond their practical functions. The artistic depictions on amphora of various cultures from around the world also reflect the technological advances in pottery and painting techniques. For example, the transition from simple geometric designs to more complex narrative scenes in Greek and Roman pottery illustrates the evolution of artistic skills and the increasing sophistication of cultural expressions. Similarly, the development of glazing techniques in Chinese ceramics allowed for vibrant colors and intricate designs that enhanced the visual appeal of these vessels. Amphora played a crucial role in the spread and exchange of alcoholic beverages across the Mediterranean and beyond during ancient trade. These ceramic vessels were specifically designed for the storage and transportation of liquids, including wine and oil, and their widespread use facilitated extensive trade networks that connected to various cultures and regions. The discovery of Punic amphora in Corinth has highlighted the extensive trade networks that existed for the distribution of goods, including salted fish and wine, indicating that these vessels were not only functional but also served as markers of cultural exchange. The presence of amphora from various regions, such as those from Chios and Mende, suggests a complex web of trade routes that facilitated the movement of alcohol across vast distances, thereby influencing local consumption patterns and preferences. Inscriptions found on amphora provide valuable information regarding the provenance and contents of these vessels. For example, the lead labels on Roman amphora often indicated the precise origin of the wine or the name of the producer, which helped customers identify the quality and type of wine they were purchasing. This practice reflects on the importance of branding in ancient economies and suggests that customers had preferences for specific types of alcohol, which could be tied to social status and cultural identity, where the reputation of a wine could influence its desirability and price. The ability to trace the origins of wine through amphora also highlights the importance of regional specialties and the pride that communities took within their local production methods. The analysis of these inscriptions allows researchers to trace the distribution of specific wine varieties and their associated cultural significance within different regions. The design and construction of amphora varied significantly across different regions, reflecting local production and practices of types of alcohol being transported. For instance, the amphora from the Aegean region, those from Chios and Mende, were characterized by elongated necks and pointed bases, which allowed for efficient stacking and transport on ships. This design was particularly advantageous for the maritime trade, as it minimized the risk of breakage during transit. The presence of these amphora in archaeological sites across the Mediterranean indicates that they were integral to the trade of wine, which was a highly valued commodity in ancient societies. The distribution of amphora also reveals insights into trade routes and economic relationships between different cultures. For example, the discovery of the Punic amphora in places like Corinth suggests that there were established trade connections between the Carthaginian and Greek worlds, facilitating the exchange of not only wine, but also other goods such as the salted fish that I'd mentioned earlier. This cross-cultural exchange was essential for the diffusion of agricultural practices, culinary traditions, and social customs related to the alcohol consumption. As discussed, the archaeological evidence suggests that the diversity of amphora types found at various sites indicates that different regions specialize in the production of specific alcoholic beverages, which were then traded extensively. For example, the amphora designed for beer typically had the wider mouth and shorter neck, accommodating the fermentation process and allowing for easier access to the contents. This specialization in amphora design reflects the local agricultural practices and consumer preferences that shape the values of the production. The role of amphora in ancient trade was further enhanced by the maritime connectivity of the Mediterranean. The extensive coastline and numerous islands facilitated the movement of goods, allowing for the exchange of not only alcoholic beverages, but also other essential commodities. The archaeological record shows that the amphora were often found in shipwrecks, providing evidence of the types of goods being transported and the routes taken by maritime traders. This maritime activity was crucial for the economic development of the region and contributed to the cultural exchanges that characterized the Mediterranean societies. Excavations of amphora from port sites, shipwrecks, and markets shed light onto the scale of trade and the movement of goods. Archaeological excavations such as those in Tel Kabri in Israel have uncovered wine cellars that provide direct evidence of wine viticulture and consumption practices. The presence of storage jars containing tartaric acid, a compound indicative of wine, suggests that wine production had specific techniques employed to enhance flavor and quality. Such findings underscore the role of wine in societal and ceremonial contexts, as well as the significance in daily lives of ancient peoples. The chemical analysis of residues found on amphora further enriches our understanding of ancient alcohol consumption. Studies have shown that organic compounds absorbed into pottery jars can reveal the types of beverages stored within them, including herbal wines used in medicinal practices in ancient Egypt. This highlights the multifaceted role of alcohol, serving not only as a recreational beverage, but also as a component of health and wellness practices. Additionally, the archaeological evidence of alcohol production, such as the identification of starch granules associated with the ancient brewing techniques, indicates that various cultures engaged in the fermentation of different ingredients to create the alcoholic beverages. This diversity in production methods reflects local agricultural practices and resource availability, which in turn influenced consumption patterns. For example, the production of beer in regions with abundant grains would differ significantly from the winemaking practices in grape-growing areas, showcasing the adaptability of ancient cultures to their environments. The production and use of amphora in the ancient Mediterranean world reflect a complex interplay between mass production for economic purposes and the creation of individualized designs for elite or ceremonial use. This duality is evident in the archaeological and chemical analysis of amphora, which reveal both standardized production methods aimed at facilitating trade and specialized design that cater to the tastes and statuses of the elite. Mass-produced amphora primarily served economic functions, particularly in the transport and storage of commodities such as wine and olive oil. As evidenced by studies on amphora from various production sites across the Mediterranean, including those from Guadalquivir Valley in Spain, which were specifically manufactured for the trade of local fish products and wine. The standardization of amphora shapes and sizes allowed for efficient stacking and transport, which was crucial for the trade networks. Furthermore, the chemical and mineralogical characterization of amphora has shown that they were produced using similar raw materials and techniques, indicating a level of industrialization in their manufacture. In contrast, individualized amphora designs often emerged in elite contexts, where amphora served not only functional purposes but also symbolic ones. For example, amphora was used in ceremonial contexts or as status symbols that were often decorated or uniquely shaped to reflect the identity and wealth of their owners. The evidence from sites like Himera in Sicily indicates that certain amphora were specifically crafted for elite consumption, showcasing the extremely intricate designs that distinguish them from their mass-produced counterparts. Additionally, the presence of amphora in funerary contexts suggests that they were imbued with cultural significance, serving as markers of social status and identity. The balance between these two production paradigms can also be seen in the technological advancements in amphora production. Studies have shown that while some amphora were produced using traditional methods that emphasized individual craftsmanship, others were manufactured using more modern techniques that facilitated mass production. This technological diversity allowed for the coexistence of both economic and elite-focused amphora within the same cultural framework. Amphora finally became obsolete by the end of the 14th century, although some production continued to the mid-15th. The reasons for the end of amphora were determined by multiple causes. The frontiers of the Byzantine state shrank, which reduced the possibilities of maritime activity. storage changed. The transition from amphora to other storage methods, such as barrels and bottles, marked a significant evolution in the production, distribution, and consumption of alcohol in the ancient world. Reflecting the adaptability of these vessels in local conditions and practices, amphora was used to store and transport wine in the early medieval Islamic Sicily, indicating the persistence of wine production and trade in the region. The analysis of amphora from this period reveals a network of trade that encompassed not only local production, but also connections to broader Mediterranean markets. This adaptability underscores the significance of amphora as a means of facilitating cultural exchange and economic interaction across different regions. Furthermore, the study of amphora in archaeological contexts has provided valuable insights into the types of alcoholic beverages produced and consumed in various cultures. For instance, the analysis of amphora from the late Roman period in the western Black Sea has shown that these vessels were used to transport the variety of goods. The diversity in usage reflects economic and cultural dynamics of the time, where amphora served as essential containers for both local and imported commodities. The reinterpretation of ancient amphora in European art and design during the Renaissance is a multifaceted topic that reflects the broader cultural revival of classical antiquity. The Renaissance, spanning roughly from the 14th to 17th centuries, was characterized by a renewed interest in the aesthetics and technologies of ancient Greece and Rome, which significantly influenced various artistic domains, including ceramics. Amphora, as the ancient ceramic vessels, were not only the functional objects, but also served as a source of inspiration for the Renaissance artists and artisans. The study of amphora from archaeological sites has revealed their diverse forms and functions, which were often characterized by their specific shapes and decorations that reflected their origins and uses. For example, the dressel types of amphora, which were prevalent during the Roman period, displayed distinct features that influenced the design of later ceramic works. The technical aspects of amphora production influence the types of clay and firing techniques that have been extensively documented, providing insights into the craftsmanship that Renaissance potters sought to emulate. During the Renaissance, the revival of classic forms was evident in the ceramics produced in Italy, particularly in regions like Faenza, known for its maiolica ware. The glossy, colorful surfaces of maiolica ceramics can be traced back to ancient techniques, which were adapted and refined during the Renaissance. The incorporation of classical motifs and designs into ceramics was not merely a replication of ancient forms, but rather a reinterpretation that sought to blend classical ideals with contemporary aesthetics. This is exemplified in the decorative styles that emerged, which often included mythological themes and intricate patterns which would be reminiscent of the ancient art. Moreover, the technological advancements in ceramic production during the Renaissance, such as the development of new glazing techniques and their vibrant pigments, were influenced by the study of ancient amphora and their decorative styles. The analysis of the archaeological ceramics has shown that the materials and methods used in Renaissance pottery were often derived from ancient practices, demonstrating the continuity of knowledge that bridged the gap between antiquity and the Renaissance. The influence of amphora extended beyond mere aesthetics. They also played a role in the economic and cultural exchanges that characterized this period. The trade routes established during the Roman Empire facilitated the movement of goods and ideas, which contributed to the cross-pollination of artistic styles across Europe. As Renaissance artists and potters engaged in these ancient forms, they not only revived classical techniques, but also adapted them to fit the tastes and demands of their contemporary audiences. Contemporary artists draw from the amphora tradition in both functional and sculptural contexts, reflecting a blend of historical reverence and innovative reinterpretation. Modern ceramics often incorporate the amphora's form and function, emphasizing its historical significance. Traditional amphora continue to be utilized in some Mediterranean regions where they serve practical purposes for storing water and oil, thereby maintaining a direct link to their ancient predecessors. This continuity of use highlights the amphora's enduring relevance in contemporary society as artisans and craftspeople explore its shape and functions in new contexts. The amphora's design, characterized by its elongated neck and wide body, has inspired modern ceramicists to create vessels that echo these forms while integrating contemporary aesthetics and techniques. In the realm of sculptural art, the amphora serves as a powerful symbol and a source of interpretation. Artists engage with the amphora's historical narratives, using it as a canvas for storytelling and expression. The vessel's ability to convey meaning through its form and decoration resonates with modern themes of identity and memory. For example, the amphora is discussed as a vessel of self and other, suggesting that its physicality can invoke deep emotional and cultural connections. This perspective is echoed in the works of contemporary artists who utilize the amphora's shape to explore themes of community, history, and personal narrative, transforming it from a mere functional object into a profound artistic statement. Moreover, the amphora's ornamental qualities have been reinterpreted in modern art. The intricate patterns and designs found on ancient amphora are often revisited by contemporary artists who infuse their works with similar decorative elements while also experimenting with new materials and techniques. This interplay between ancient and modern practices allows for a dialogue that bridges time and culture, as seen in the works of artists influenced by historical ceramic traditions. Amphora and other clay vessels were utilized in various regions of the ancient world for storage and trade of alcoholic beverages, including beer and wine. Their design and functionality reflect the technological and cultural advancements of societies that produced them, while their role in trade highlights the interconnectedness of ancient economies. The diversity of alcoholic beverages stored in these vessels, from wine in the Mediterranean to chicha in the Andes, illustrates the rich tapestry of ancient drinking practices and their significance in societal and cultural contexts. The types of ancient alcoholic containers varied widely across cultures due to its factors such as the type of alcohol produced, the materials available, cultural practices surrounding consumption, and artistic expression. The representation of these containers in art serves to highlight their cultural importance and their role of alcohol in community life. The diversity of shapes and designs reflects the rich tapestry of human experience with alcohol, showcasing its significance in social, spiritual, and cultural contexts throughout history. The mythological stories and deities surrounding alcohol reflect its complex role in human society, serving as a bridge between the mundane and the divine. From ancient rituals to modern practices, alcohol remains a vital element in cultural expressions of spiritual beliefs worldwide. The rituals surrounding these deities often involved elaborate feasts and communities that celebrated the bounty of harvest and divine favor bestowed on the community. Amphora stand as a remarkable testament to the artistic, cultural, and historic splendor of the ancient world. These double-handed ceramic vessels were not merely utilitarian objects for storage and transport, they were intricate works of art adorned with rich iconography that reflected the beliefs, daily lives, and trade practices of their societies. From the stunning black figure and red figure techniques that showcase mythological narratives to the inscriptions that detail trade routes, amphora offer invaluable insights into ancient economies and social structures. Their widespread use across civilizations, from the bustling markets of the Mediterranean trade routes to the quiet serenity of Egyptian tombs, and all the way to the temples of China and South America, illustrates both the interconnectedness of cultures in antiquity and the distinct marvel of convergent evolution. By studying these vessels, we gain a deeper appreciation for the sophisticated craftsmanship and enduring influence of ancient peoples, reminding us that art and utility can coexist and will continue to echo through the ages. Thank you so much for listening to Detours in Archaeology, Amphora Not So Anonymous. I really hope you enjoyed it. There's so much more to cover and so many rabbit holes to dive into, so I highly encourage everyone to head over to the Connected website. If you want to skip through the article, you can look at the pictures and then go down to the further reading and citation section for links to so much more information. That website is detoursinarchaeology.com. As always, I deeply apologize for any names and pronunciation of a lot of words that I get wrong. I am trying my best, but I can always do better. And I love to learn to do better and what facts I might have got wrong. So if you know any or have any questions or other comments, you can either leave a comment on the podcast app that you're listening to right now, you can once again head over to my website, use the contact page to email me or email me directly. If you want to get updates as to what I'm up to and some extra goodies, you can always follow my website or you can follow my Patreon for free. It is Detours in Archaeology. But the best way you can help me out right now is by rating and reviewing this episode or the podcast. Leave a like, leave a comment, give me some stars, and please share it with everyone you know, friends, coworkers, anyone who might be interested. I'd love to grow this out for more people, and I really, really appreciate it. You can follow me on Instagram to catch the latest photos at Flying Sepida. Sepida is spelled Sepida. It is the family name for cuttlefish without the E at the end. All the music used was by Scott Buckley, who you can find at scottbuckley.com.au. For anyone who is listening, I just want to give an update. I'm going to be spreading out my release schedule a bit. It takes a lot to do this while working a full-time job, and I'm going to be getting into the field season, which means I'll be more away from my computer and less able to do this. I will be putting out episodes every either 3 or 4 weeks, depending on the month. Or generally, it may be once a month. Art is still going to go up. Articles will continue to go up as well, just every 3 weeks, unless the podcast is coming out that same week. For the fun fact this week, ketchup was once sold as a medicine in the 1830s to cure ailments like indigestion, diarrhea, and jaundice. I don't know how well it worked, but that was also 1 or 2 centuries after it was actually illegal to have tomatoes because people thought it was poisonous. It was actually the chemical reaction from the tomato juice mixing with the chemicals on a pewter plate, which did turn out to be poisonous. Good thing we don't eat with pewter plates anymore. If you know any true fun facts, please share them with me and I'll relay them to everyone who listens, and you'll get your own shout out. I'll see you soon for another detour into archaeology. Happy Georgian calendar New Year! Thanks again.